long this video is. Don't worry, I try to jam-pack my videos with as much content and as much detail as I possibly can. Anything I feel I can comment on and that I feel you might be interested in, I pretty much put in the video. I try not to repeat myself and talk fairly fast. I either have or will cover other parts of this franchise, and this video either is or will be linked below. I'm not going to restate here what I did or will say in the other video. These videos get long enough as it is. I got this either as a present or I got it on discount, so I did not pay very much money for this and am thus not bitter on account of that. Video game review of Bioshock 2 DLC, Minerva's Den. The Den. May God have mercy on us all. Starting, of course, with the plot. The Thinker is the central computer running Rapture, and among other things, it makes the trains run on time. I would have guessed electricity or steam, but there you go, very advanced. Now, this took me 5 hours to complete, and I've seen differing numbers. Some say 3 hours, some say 6. If I took time and really explored. If I had just rushed through, I would say I could probably have completed it in 3 hours. So yeah, if you start it and you're not really getting into it, it'll only take you 3 hours if you rush. I will say though that it took me a little while to get invested, so maybe hold off on give it maybe the first hour or so before you really Now on plot, I would definitely say this has the best twist of the Bioshock games and DLC leading up to and including this one, but that's not saying much. Now, it's again a self-contained story, and it takes place parallel to Bioshock 2, and there are a few actual mentions of, Lamb is mentioned some. Now, it's, as others have noted, it doesn't feel like an afterthought or the like. It genuinely, Now, you are playing as another alpha prototype Big Daddy. This time it's Sigma, not Delta. And you're trying to get to the Thinker. Being helped by Charles Milton, or C.M. Porter. He built the thing. Well, he may have had some help. And his rival, Reed Wall, is trying to stop you. He's obsessed with the genius of his own ideas, because that's the motivation in every Bioshock game leading up to and including this one. And he sends splicers your way, and they work for him because they are devoted to him and his leadership, just like Bioshock 2. The basic goal is Porter wants you to replicate the machine and bring it to the outside world to benefit the world, and so sort of a reverse of what Andrew Ryan wanted. So yeah. And there are no consequences for the moral decision harvesting or rescuing little sisters. I I'm not going to claim that I see how they would really have implemented an ending. You know, with the first two, the ending, it makes sense that, yeah, you know, you go to Rapture, and it's this place where you can do good or ill. There's not that much, you know, as you play, you become more and more unstoppable, even though they're sending more and more against you. So, yeah, you know, what do you do when no one stops you, and there is this, you know, are the little sisters to you, are they human, or are they these just, you know, are they just resources for you to harvest? And yeah, that works really well in the first two. I don't see how they would really have implemented something like that here, but I do think that it's too bad that there isn't that, you know, yeah, it's a big deal in the two core games, and really didn't need to be a choice in this one since it's so short. You could, I'll get more into that later. Now, it's, as some have noted, it's actually even more intriguing and personal than the second one of, you know, reuniting with your daughter. It's, I didn't think, you know, when I first read that, I was like, that's, how could that possibly, they made it, they succeeded. And the story, it's, you know, as others have noted, moving and melancholy. It's, yeah. And as others have noted, it, you know, Rapture was getting old, and it was becoming increasingly difficult for 2K to wring interesting stories and characters out of the setting. They should. It's definitely a good thing that this was the last they did before moving on. I have not played Bioshock Infinite yet, but I do own it, and I will get to it. But you know, there it's completely different. Although, you know, as far as I understand, the Burial at Sea DLC for Bioshock Infinite does take you to Rapture, but then that has different characters that, you know, that has the Bioshock Infinite characters, as far as I understand. The there is, you know, it plays the same as the second game, just there isn't that much new stuff yeah, to get into, when both, you know, Bioshock 1 has stuff that you don't really see in, yeah, that's stuff that you don't usually see in big shooters. Bioshock 2 has a ton of weapons that weren't, you know, you could say that, well, there are some of the same ones, yeah, but they're very different from what they are in the first one. You know, still, you know, you've got a pistol, you've got, you know, an assault rifle or a machine gun, SMG, that kind of thing, but they're very, very different. And the melee weapon, you know, a wrench versus a drill, yeah. Now, I feel like it's not quite as fast-paced as the second one, and it definitely, like I said, it takes a little while to get you invested, where the second game, you're invested from, like, yeah, from the very start. You know, both of the first two games have a really strong opening, and in this, you know, it's okay, but it the The very opening of this is basically you were headed to the Thinker, and or just yeah, you're on your way there, and you find that, you know, Reed knows that you're on your way, and he bombs the passage to, you know, the tunnel, the underwater tunnel. And it's just, I mean, you know that I'm a big daddy. I'm gonna survive on the ocean floor. You know, it's not, and I don't know, maybe the idea is, oh no, maybe I won't be able to get back into the city, but you know that that's not going to be the case. Or if it were, then it would immediately after flash back or something. It's a Bioshock. It's a Bioshock 2 DLC. Obviously, it's going to take place in Rapture. You know, it's, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something with that one, but it just really did not. It didn't hit me the way the first and the second one do. Now, Minerva, of course, is, with her owl, is the Roman goddess of wisdom, and you know there are references all over the, you know, Bioshock 1, 2, and this of, like, you know, Roman mythology and Greek mythology and such. Now, there are a few new features. Basically, there are these vacuum bots that have sucked up useful stuff, and you know, when you find them, they've broken down, so they're not moving, and you know, and then you'll find one at a time, of course. And if you break it, it'll blow up, and you can collect whatever items it had sucked up. It's basically like opening containers, just you break it and you blow it up instead of just opening it. And this does have the exact same problems as Bioshock 2. And since I can imagine the Bioshock Infinite menu is going to be different, at this point I have to say, every time I hear that, you know, the opening few notes of the main menu, it always makes me Jones for, you know, still DRE. And that brings us, like I said, not a lot new. So yeah, that brings us to the weapons. The only one that isn't here that is in the second one is the research camera, and you don't actually research in this. I'll get into what it is instead. The only new one is the ion cannon, which, you know, it's an ion laser projected energy weapon that harnesses the power of light. You know, the precise and powerful beam. And then there are, you know, the alternate ammos are thermal ammo, which, you know, high temperature ammunition that sets enemies on fire, and one that can be charged up to deal damage in strong bursts. And that's, yeah, it's kind of obvious. It's very attention grabby, kind of desperate, you know, come back, please. Laser. Everybody likes lasers. You know, we already had heated ammo and other alternate strong ammo. And each ammo, you know, all three ammo types are just powerful, deals a lot of damage, you know. I mean, when of completely new weapons in the second one that aren't in the first, you know, probably the most different is the drill, and that's really interesting. And, you know, it also puts in your hands something that used to be really terrifying to you, you know. And yeah, here it's just, yeah. Now you find upgraded versions of guns rather than carefully choosing your own individual upgrades at the limited amount of upgrade stations. Yes, it's short, but you still encounter 3 big daddies and little sisters per level, making that aspect feel really overloaded. Why not have at least one upgrade station per level? If they were going to have either Atom or upgrade stations overloaded, I would have gone with upgrade stations. That brings us to the plasmids. The basically the plasmids are all still the ones in the second one. There are some gene tonics that I at least didn't find, as particularly the ones related to the research camera and researching. Now the one new, yeah, just briefly, the unique gene tonics are the drill dash, which now it's the same as in 2, it's just now you don't research to get it, and master protector, which you win by fully completing the protector trials, and it's another one that lets you get more Atom from harvesting, and that is that is quite useful. In spite of that aspect being overloaded, there is still fairly little Atom to get compared to the 2 core games. Now, the new plasmid is Gravity Well, which creates a gravitational singularity, pulling in nearby objects, corpses, and enemies, and dealing them high levels of damage. It's fine. It feels kind of showy. It's kind of an overbait concept, and like too many of your attacks already, it hurts your hack security bots, which is a really big point against it. Level 2 lets you charge it for a proximity mine, and level 3 adds acid, because why not? It's not like they were holding back before. I don't even know how acid in that is supposed to work. We've had really interesting plasmids over the course of these 2 games. This one is basically just a grenade. You throw it, it detonates, it does a lot of damage in the area that it hit. It's just a more unique visual to the, yeah, and the objective that has you get it is really contrived. It's basically, how you zap certain doors in order to get through them, and some doors are frozen, so you have to, thaw the ice with the, fire plasmid, incinerate. This one has doors that they're locked with this kind of magnetic lock, and you have to throw something over the divider between, the 2 sides of the door, and whatever you throw over will need to be able to pull out the magnetic thingamajig, and thus you need something that sucks hard, and that is true of Gravity Well. I really feel like the second game did some really interesting things with the upgrades of plasmids, being able to continuously zap with the electro bolt. As long as you have Eve, you can be zapping, and just and the incinerate version of that and such. And yeah, this one, it's just it's not an interesting plasmid, and the upgrades are also not that interesting. It starts out really kind of ridiculous, and I do appreciate that it gives you, the fact that you can use it as a trap. That's a good thing. changes up your strategy. That brings us to enemies. There are a few, as far as I could tell, this has basically the same enemies as the second game again. Yeah, just in general, this has almost everything that the core game does. Now, the new ones are Fiery Brute, Splicer. It's okay. Just yeah, it means you can't use fire to damage him, and he uses fire to damage you. Wintry Houdini Splicers, where the regular ones would only use fire attacks. Not that interesting, but they are able to freeze your hacked bots, which can take them out of commission for minutes. You may have to do everybody who's ever had to deal with a piece of technology already knows. What do you do if something doesn't turn on? You flip it on and off a few times, maybe give it a little rest between flipping it off and flipping it back on, but eventually it will still come back on. But yeah, if you're running around and you're relying on your bots, the Wintry Houdini Splicer can actually, it'll force you to use other stuff. And then there is the Lancer type Big Daddy, who can temporarily blind you with an ion flash attack from the ion laser. Again, just not that interesting. It's just, yeah, he has the ion laser as well. That's, yeah. And then there are upgraded security bots. There are ones that fire rockets, ones that use the, electric, something like the electric plasmid, and ones that are outfitted with the laser. And I appreciate that they also make it more difficult, but bots and such have never been that big of a problem to deal with. In these games, they are more boons than banes. The moment you hack 2 of these, or even just 1, you can win. They can win most regular battles for you, not just fight, win. They should have put more limits on them. Maybe you can, 1 or more of the following. Maybe not upgrade them at all, which I appreciate. They wanted new types. Maybe only allow you to control 1 at a time, not 2. Maybe you wouldn't be able to control the upgraded ones. Actually, I think it would be interesting if the upgraded ones were a little rarer and you had to destroy them. You wouldn't be able to hack them, or hacking them would only slow them down for a few seconds or something like that. Like they shake off your influence. So if you're dealing with like 3 at the same time, you hack the first 2 or something, and then while they're shaking, okay, maybe you hack all of them. While they're shaking off the influence, you hurry up and destroy as many of them as you can, and then maybe you can't hack them again for half a minute or something. That would have been really interesting. I do appreciate repairing them now does cost Eve. That was a really big, yeah, the thing with the second game is that almost every other time it did something to force consequences upon your choices, it also, took away consequences from a choice that there already was, or a choice that it was introducing now, yeah, didn't have consequences. Now, that brings us to whether or not it is challenging to play. Now, I didn't play this on the hardest difficulty, but apparently if you do play through on hard, it's, it can get really, really difficult, and I can see how that would, yeah. But otherwise, like I've said, the new ones aren't the new things that add difficulty aren't that difficult, and then you have stuff like you don't have to worry about upgrade stations at all, not the choice. It's just you just have to find the upgraded versions of the guns. I believe I actually there was one weapon. I guess I just wasn't thorough enough in my searching, though I really thought I had been, but whatever. I didn't find the regular version of a specific gun, but then I found an upgraded version later, so it didn't matter that I hadn't found the original one. Like, if in the second game, if there's a gun you just don't find, you can't just upgrade your way out of that one. No, you have to put effort into it. Here, the fact that I missed it, I mean, there might have been other good stuff that I missed, but otherwise it just meant that I saved some time by not finding it because I found a better version later. It's, yeah, I don't even think that they needed to have the upgraded versions at all. Considering the length, I thought it would have been fine. Or just have the upgraded version be the first one you get. It feels really unearned. You almost feel bad using these things, just like you used a cheat code or something. Now, getting into a few things about the individual levels. Oh, actually, yeah, I had forgotten about this, about the start of it. I am actually, yeah, I'm gonna use I and me in place of Sigma now. Once they blow the tunnel, I do actually, like, I land on the seabed, and I'm actually inactive for some time, and then I'm awakened by, or maybe I awaken by, whatever, but okay, so that does feel a little bit more permanent than that. And, you're told almost immediately, Reed went insane because of, say it with me, splicing. There certainly wasn't enough of major characters who had gone insane from splicing in the first game. And I get some of the, this is again the thing, when it's short but it has all the weapons and plasmids of the full one, obviously you're going to get a bunch very early on. Including the ion cannon I got almost immediately. And you learn about Porter that he lost his wife Pearl before. Yeah, I shouldn't give too much away about that, but he has lost his wife Pearl, and that's kind of that's where the emotional impact comes in. And yeah, I that didn't get me right away, but a little. Let's see. Yeah, it was relatively early on, but yeah, if you're playing it, you're not really getting into it. At one point, relatively early on, you hear the voice of a character that you didn't necessarily expect to hear the voice of, but you hear that character's voice, and that really gets you into it. And yeah, if you get to that point and you hear that character's voice and you're like still not into it, you're never gonna get into it, and you're probably not, yeah, I'm not sure the Bioshock series is really for you, since there is a certain amount. It is about, you're trying to save people if you're playing it as a good guy anyway. this introduces a variation on the Little Sisters, and it's clear it's supposed to be super creepy, but it really isn't. I get what they were doing with it, and it makes sense that it's in this and not referenced elsewhere, but it's yeah. And Tenenbaum does have some presence here. That's a, I suppose, yeah, she's the only character in all three of these, in the two core games and this DLC. That, yeah, there was a there was an idea introduced that I thought was going to turn out to be that someone was lying to you about something really major, and that turned out not to be the case, and that was really surprising to me. The various objectives make pretty good sense. And I will say, I didn't think going in that I would necessarily care that much about the ending, the way that, you know, again, I still don't think the first one did a fantastic job on that, but I will say that the second one, you know, throughout, you're like, I need to get to the, you know, I want to, yeah, I want to rescue Eleanor, you know, and then when you get there, it's really satisfying. But yeah, in this, I've, you know, it certainly is a nice altruistic goal. You want to improve the world by getting the thinker out there, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be that compelling. Ultimately, it sounds like just, you know, it's a salvage operation. It's not that big of a, you know, but, you know, and ultimately in these games you are most focused on rapture, so the getting to the outside world, although that has always been, the ending of each of these is all about, you know, what impact will it have on the outside world and such, but you're not necessarily thinking a lot about that during, where in this it's your stated goal right from the start. But the ending is really impactful, so yeah, and it's, might it be the best, most compelling ending of one of these? I suppose ultimately I'd still say the second one is the most compelling, the one that has the most emotional impact, especially considering the moral choices along the way. But this one is a very close second, and the one in the first, it's just, yeah, it's fine. Didn't do much for me. I've reviewed other parts of this franchise. The links are in the description box. Please comment, thumbs up, and subscribe.